Welcome to Fangirl Football. I'm Judy.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Lauren. Welcome to our Week 5 game predictions. This week brings our first 4 teams on bye weeks and a game from London with a 9:30 a.m. start. Next 3 weeks have a game in London. How did that happen? I guess they're just really pushing the international.
They are. There's an international focus, definitely. Yep.
So I guess we better get used to the 9:30 a.m. start.
We need to. Yeah. Hey, you're not on the Pacific Coast, where it's 6:30 in the morning.
Kind of surprising. Anyway, this week, the Lions, Chargers, and Titans get the week off. I'm sure there are many players that are enjoying their rest and recovery and hopefully coming back from some injuries. Meanwhile, the undefeated Vikings travel across the pond to host the Jets. Let's start with that game. And is Minnesota considered home?
I know. It's always so weird that you have to give up a home game that you're hosting in London. I'm pretty sure it doesn't feel like a home game for them. Because I've seen that, at the international games, and you get fans of everybody that turn out for the international games. And so I'm sure the Jets are going to have plenty of fans there too, yelling and screaming. Everyone's just going to be yelling and screaming. Anyhow, we do have the Jets at Minnesota, but in London. And Minnesota is favored, but only by 2.5 points. The over-under is only 40 in this. I think they're giving the Jets defense a big credit there. And no credit to the Vikings offense, which is a little surprising. So we have the Jets coming in off of the ugly loss to the Broncos last week, and the Vikings coming off another big win over the Green Bay Packers. These teams are pretty healthy too, so we should see a pretty good game. The Jets running backs last week, Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, were held to a total of 7.9 FanDuel points combined for both of them. That's kind of crazy that we have these top running backs and they were held down that much. I think that's the key to shutting down the Jets. You stop the running game and Rodgers has to throw and you pressure him some, then you can hold the score down. The line was an issue for Rodgers last week. He was sacked 5 times in week 4 for 41 yards, and I'm sure that did not make him happy. He gets pretty upset when he gets sacked. The Vikings have everything going right now, and they're the only undefeated team remaining in the NFC. I thought the Packers' defense would cause more issues for the Vikings' offense than it did. The return of Jordan Addison saw Jalen Naylor's touchdown streak end, so he didn't get his touchdown in week 4, and Addison did get that touchdown. Justin Jefferson is the only player in the NFL with a touchdown in each of the first 4 games. Can he keep it going this week?
Do you think that the Jets defense will be a challenge for the Vikings? I feel like the Vikings have been pretty strong against variable defenses so far.
I think that the Vikings keep it rolling. I feel like this is a game that is well set up to hit the over and not the under. I think the Vikings are strong.
I really question some of the lines here. I don't quite understand. Maybe update them when they update them when they get closer to?
They do. They're always changing. They change like every 20 minutes and react to everything and people putting money on each side. So they're always changing. And I feel like this line is definitely set because it's in London. If this game was truly in Minnesota, I think it would probably be out on the 5.5 range instead of the 2.5 point spread that we've got.
I feel like the over-under would also be increased to closer to that 50 mark, because I know the Packers game was also not projected to be super high, and Minnesota just ran away with that.
Yeah. So who are you picking?
I will be picking the Vikings. They've looked strong. I think they're going to have a 5-0 start.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I'm picking the Vikings as well. They're just looking too strong.
Yeah, they are looking too strong. Very exciting for them, though, after what we thought for preseason.
Definitely.
Next up, Baltimore at Cincinnati. Baltimore starting the season 2-2, and Cincinnati's starting 1-3. Baltimore's favored by 3, and it's it's projected to be a high scoring game with an over under of 50.5.
Yeah, both of these defenses can give up a lot of points. This is a big divisional game for the Bengals because they have to win to get back in their divisional race. Last week, they beat the Carolina Panthers, but that's not a strong win that they're coming off of. Joe Burrow was also stepped on in that game against the Panthers by his own linemen. And he was in visible pain, limped off, but he has not shown up on the injury report this week. So that's good.
And T. Higgins continues to play a bigger role in getting that offense scoring again.
He does. So he has stepped in and he kind of has really just opened up that passing game a little bit, I feel like. And Chase is looking better. Everyone's looking better with T. Higgins in the lineup. The Ravens are the top rushing defense, allowing just under 58 yards a game. The Bengals should be looking to pass the ball because running against the Ravens is tough. On the other side, the Ravens are coming off the monster win at home against the Buffalo Bills, and Derrick Henry had 199 yards, and he already has 5 rushing touchdowns this year. He was not on my fantasy football bench last week, thank goodness, and I won. Can anyone stop Henry?
I don't think so on the Bengals side.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry combined have already rushed for 788 yards in the first 4 games this year. I don't know what the record is for a season, but they have to be going at it. So who do you want to pick in this one?
I think Baltimore's looking stronger and Joe Burrow. I know this past weekend they finally started connecting a bit more and they did come and have a win, but against a stronger team than the starting season Carolina Panthers were. But still, I I think the Ravens are gonna win this one.
It's hard to go against the Ravens. I don't know that they can stop Derrick Henry. I don't think they
No,
can. I've got to go with the Ravens. The only thing that I could see swaying this is the Ravens were like so up for that game against the Buffalo Bills. And we do see that where you get like so high and you're coming off of that giant win and there's just it's like you're just deflated for the next game and you'll lose the next game that you shouldn't have lost. So that's the only thing that I can see going on here. It goes the other way too. So if you're coming off a loss, you get pretty pumped up to have that win. Let's go ahead and move on to our next game, which is the Buffalo Bills at Houston. And I love this game. This game's exciting, I think, or I hope it will be exciting. And Buffalo is coming off of that loss to the Baltimore Ravens. So they are definitely looking to get even in this game. And the Texans are kind of limping through things at the moment. Houston is favored by 1, but they're at home. So that's not even like a true favorite there. And the over under is 47.5. I'm thinking this hits the over. I like it to hit the over. I believe we had 10 games last week that hit the over of 16. So I look for that trend to maybe happen again this week.
yeah, the Texans seemed to struggle a bit last week after their loss in Minnesota. They just didn't look like themselves still last week. Yeah, they won, but they didn't. It was against Jacksonville, and they didn't look like themselves.
No, they came
They
back to
didn't look like the
score
first 2 weeks.
with 18 seconds left to win that game in Jacksonville. So they
Yeah.
almost lost
Well,
it.
and that was at Houston.
Oh, that was at Houston. Why did I
That
think
was
that
at
was
Houston.
okay? I thought that was in Jacksonville. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's rough then. Nico Collins continues to be the favorite wide receiver for sure there. He racked up 30 FanDuel points in 12 receptions in that Jacksonville game. But both of these teams are pretty beat up. The Texans have Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, and Tank Dell all questionable, and they none of the 3 of them played last week. So we're going to have to see if somebody does start to play again. And the running game is really, really struggling without Joe Mixon in there. And then the Bills have Khalil Shakir. He has ankle soreness, their wide receiver. So he may not be out. He's not practicing as of Wednesday. So we'll have to watch that and see who's healthier going in. But until the Texans get that running game going again, I don't see this improving for them.
Yeah, and I think the Bills been a lot more scrambly when needed. I'm favoring the Bills on this one.
I am too. I'm going Buffalo. That's why I wore my Josh Allen jersey.
Well, let's chat Arizona Cardinals at San Francisco.
Yeah, another divisional game. Arizona is 1-3. I thought that they were gonna be a little bit better than their record states right now, and the 49ers are 2-2. I think we're all a little surprised at the 2-2 record as well. The 49ers are favored by 7 points, and the over-under is high at 49.5. But the last 5 matchups between these 2 teams have produced point totals of 74 points, 51, another 51, and then 2 48-point total games. So this 49.5 is coming right in between 4 of those games, and then they're letting that 74-point one go. The Cardinals lost bad last week to Washington, which we all thought the Cardinals' offense was gonna light up Washington since the Washington defense is so bad, and they didn't. They couldn't get anything going. And the Cardinals' defense was bad as well. So the Cardinals are hoping to get their tight end, Trey McBride, back from concussion this week, and hopefully that's gonna make a huge difference in this game. I have a feeling that he's gonna play and be back. He was out last week. And the 49ers are coming off an easy win at home in week 4.
I know earlier in the season we had thought that the Patriots were going to be a little stronger, and then the last 2 weeks we haven't seen the Patriots show up quite like we expect. But we also expected the 49ers to struggle a bit with all their injuries, and
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like that happened. They just
It didn't.
had a normal strong day.
Yeah, last week they got everyone back except Christian McCaffrey, and, Jordan Mason is doing just as well as Christian McCaffrey. I can't say that they're really struggling without McCaffrey in there. Mason has just stepped in and done a equally as good of role. Now, the people that drafted Christian McCaffrey in fantasy football aren't so happy, but the 49ers are pretty fine with Mason going forward.
Maybe see if Mason's on the wire. Probably not, but
Not in any of my leagues because I've got him.
who are you picking here?
This one's tough for me.
What about it do you really like? Because I've just been seeing Arizona struggle, so
I feel like coming off of that bad, embarrassing loss to Washington last week, that they will step up, and they'll kinda step up like we saw Baltimore play last week. So I just feel that loss is going to propel them to a different level, and we've seen that they can get there, and if they have Trey McBride back, I think that's gonna really help. How about you? Who are you picking?
I was leaning San Francisco. I think I'm still on the San Francisco side on this one. Strong talent that has been making the connections. When the games it's hard when some of the games have been close and they've lost by just a field goal, a last-minute kick.
Yeah, definitely.
So Green Bay at the LA Rams. Green Bay's favorite by 3. Over and under is still also a high game. I feel like we have a lot more higher scoring games this week maybe than last week, or that they're predicting are gonna be higher scoring. This one's at 47.5.
There do seem to be a lot of higher scoring games this week, and maybe that's because 10 went over last week and they think there will be more scoring. We're not stuck in the first 2 weeks of the season when we didn't have passing touchdowns. Let's hope we don't go back to that. But these 2 teams, yeah, so the Rams, they're hurting. With all the injuries there, I don't know that they can keep up with Green Bay. Green Bay got Jordan Love back last week. He did look good. They still lost, but he threw the ball 54 times. That's a crazy number of pass attempts in that loss to the Vikings. But the Packers also lost Christian Watson to an ankle injury, and he'll probably be out a few weeks. They're still strong at wide receiver, though. They've got Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks is stepping up and filling that empty spot. He looked great last week. The Rams give up big plays on defense, and they've got so many injuries. I just don't think they can keep up.
I'm with you. I don't think they can either. They're struggling a bit. I'm going Green Bay.
I agree. I'm going Green Bay as well. I don't see any way that the Rams can keep up with them. even at home. So next up, we've got the Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars, another divisional game. And Colts are
with an
now,
0-4 team.
yeah, yeah. The Colts are 2-2, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are 0-4. Jacksonville is favored somehow. I don't even know how you get to be an 0-4 team and get favored, but it's happening. And the over under is 46.5, another high scoring game. So the Colts haven't won in Jacksonville since the 2014 season. That's kind of a big stat.
I know the Colts have had some struggling seasons, and I guess I don't know. I'm trying to come up with excuses, and that's just a mind-blowing stat that they haven't won in Jacksonville in the last 9 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're going to see if they can break that streak. Anthony Richardson left last week's game with an abdominal injury, and Jonathan Taylor also left the game with an ankle injury. It seems almost certain that Jonathan Taylor is going to be out a few weeks. Anthony Richardson seems day to day, but I know that the Indy coach likes to err on the side of caution when it comes to Anthony Richardson. And Joe Flacco looked good. He stepped in and looked good and won the game for the Colts. So I don't know that they'll start Anthony Richardson with him not being 100%. We'll have to wait and see how the week goes on. But so far, he hasn't been practicing. So we can kind of assume that we're going to get Joe Flacco. And the Jaguars are that 0-4, and they're in a must win game. They hope to get Evan Ingram back at tight end this week, which would definitely help out. And their running back situation, Tank Bigsby is looking better than running back Travis Etienne, but the Colts give up a lot of rushing yards. So could Travis Etienne be looking to have a big day against the Colts?
I'll also say that this last weekend, the Jaguars just looked like a different team to me. They looked like they were playing different and more cohesive. I I felt like in the first couple of weeks they fell apart more, and then maybe it was a combination of Houston not doing as well, the Jaguars staying more invigorated there, but I'm actually gonna pick the Jaguars here.
I'm going to pick the Jaguars too. I just don't see them going 0-5. They're at home. I think Colts continue to lose in Jacksonville. I'm sure it's going to be hot.
Yes. Cleveland at Washington, a 1-3 team, Cleveland going up against Washington, a 3-1 team. Washington's favored by 3.5. Over under is at 45.
Yeah, we're still at 45. That's a little surprising having Cleveland there in the mix. I don't know that they've scored that many points this year. But we've got Jaden Daniels, and he's leading the NFL in completion percentage with 82.1. I need to check and see where Jared Goff is after having that perfect week last week. He's got to be up there as well. But right now, Jaden Daniels is leading, and Goff gets a week off. So Jane Daniels is in command of the Commanders, and there's nothing exciting on the Cleveland side of this ball. They managed to lose to the Raiders last week, and there's Deshaun Watson looked slightly better last week, but he doesn't look like the Deshaun Watson that we remember, and there's just nothing going too well in Cleveland.
You think this is going to be a runaway game?
I like it to be a runaway game. I don't know. Maybe the Cleveland defense can put up a roadblock, but Jaden Daniels seems to have everything going on. He can run, he can pass. He's making everything look good and easy, and he's at home. So I've got to go with the Commanders in this game.
I'm going with the Commanders too. Next up's one that I will be focusing on, the New York Giants at the Seattle Seahawks. A 1-3 team against a 3-1 team. Seattle is, of course, favorite here by 6.5 points. Over under is on the lower side finally, 43.5 points. So they're not saying that this is going to be a big scoring game and that the Seahawks are going to keep Giants from mostly scoring.
Yeah, I feel like this could all be on the Seahawks side, although I've seen some people picking the Giants and thinking they're going to keep this interesting. But I feel like the Seahawks coming off that loss to Detroit are angry and they're looking to get even. So they let Jared Goff go 18 of 18, like we just talked about a minute ago. And I bet the Seahawks defense gets kind of back to average this week against Daniel Jones. The Seahawks defense does have a bunch of injury concerns, though. That's the only issue here and why I keep seeing talk about how the Giants are gonna make this an interesting game. But the Giants are gonna probably be without Malik Neighbors, who has a concussion, although he has a chance to play because it's gonna be on the 10-day range, but right now he's not practicing, so we'll have to wait till, like, Friday to figure out if he's going to be able to play or not. I just like the Seahawks here. I don't see the Giants doing anything. I think that Daniel Jones can be a turnover machine. And now I've got an angry, even if they are injured defense, the Seahawks defense is going to be angry.
Well, and the Seahawks stadium is known for being loud too.
They are.
And so I don't see that helping the Giants at all. In a turnover machine, I could see that just making it worse.
I agree.
I'm
It
going
sounds like,
Seahawks.
yeah, we're both picking the Seahawks here. We got out our little Ouija board and our crystal ball. We're all picking the Seahawks. I don't think we needed any of those tools to help us pick that one.
Well, we might actually need some help picking the next one. Carolina, 1-3 at Chicago, 2-2. Chicago's favorite, 3.5. So it's about a home field advantage, and the over/under is 42. We're getting pretty low scoring now.
I feel like this one could go on the over side. Um, Although Chicago's defense has looked pretty good. But I think this could actually be a fun game. Both of these teams are relatively equal, and it could be fun just to watch them if they can actually score. So the Bears got the win over the Rams last week, and the Bears have been giving up yards to running backs. So maybe we see Chuba Hubbard have a really good day for Carolina and take off some of that pressure against Andy Dalton. And the Panthers lost to the Bengals, but they still put up 24 points against the Bengals with Andy Dalton. So I feel like this is like a sneaky over game. And when we do DFS tomorrow, this might come into play in my sneaky stack. I'm going to have to think about this one a little bit. I wish that I know Andy Dalton doesn't run the ball very often, and Caleb Williams does a little bit, but not as much as I would like for that sneaky stack, but I'll still look at it.
Might be picking up a running back or a couple of parts of it.
Definitely, could be. We'll have to see where Chuba Hubbard's priced for sure, because I do like that.
Who are you picking?
I'm gonna go with Chicago. I gotta go with the Bears at home. You?
I'm going Carolina.
Are
I
you?
I know that they lost last weekend, but kept it competitive. They kept it close, and I think they can come back this weekend and get another win. I know they really want to, and I know Andy Dalton really wants to.
Yeah. Well, next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders at the Denver Broncos. Both of these teams are 2-2. It does not feel like both of these teams are 2-2 because the Raiders got the win over the Browns last week, but it really feels like everything is falling apart on this Raiders team. And they're out of love with the coach. And Devontae Adams isn't practicing, and he's requested a trade. And I'm sure, in Kansas City, they're trying to pool all the money together and all the draft picks to try to bring him in since they're at desperate need for wide receiver. But it just feels like the Raiders are going in a direction that isn't going to have many good performances this year. And Devontae Adams doesn't want to be part of it. Denver is returning home after picking up 2 wins on the road. They beat the, Jets last weekend and then the Bucks the week before that. So they're looking like they're getting stronger. It's kind of funny because you look at the stats and it's nothing impressive. So their defense is definitely performing well and keeping them in these games, and I don't think the Raiders have a chance here. So Denver is favored by 3, I forgot to mention that, and the over-under's down there at 37. What do you think in this one?
I'm going Denver. I don't think that the Raiders have it to stop Denver this week.
You think Devontae Adams is gonna get out of there? Where's he gonna get traded to?
Who has the most injuries right now?
Well, Kansas
Kansas
City
City need
does,
them.
but, that's trading to a division, and the Kansas City would
Don't
have
want
to
to do that.
offer a whole more than they're going to be willing to do. But they could go maybe to the Jets. The Jets could definitely use somebody at Devontae Adams level, and I'm sure that Aaron Rodgers would appreciate that. Or maybe Buffalo.
Yeah, because Buffalo had a bunch of changes there, and they lost Stephon Diggs, huh?
Yeah. And Keenan Coleman hasn't quite stepped into that role that we've wanted him to yet this year. And then Khalil Shakir is also injured a little bit. So maybe we'll see if Devontae Adams can get out of there.
Let's quickly touch on this next game because I don't really want to think about it too much. I feel already bad for Miami. It's Miami at New England, both 1-3 teams. The favorites, New England by 1. Over under is 35.5. I
This is a
I
sad
I can't.
game. It's so
Yeah.
sad. I don't think I can handle watching Miami melt down again and Tyreek Hill lose his mind because they can't do anything. And if Tyreek Hill hadn't gone on and on in July about how he loved being in Miami, I would expect him to be requesting a trade, but he loves Miami and he's trying to make it work, but they gotta find somebody to be quarterback. Should we just pick?
Yeah, let's just pick New England.
I really wanna pick Miami. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but yeah, I'm gonna go New England as well.
It's at New England. I'm feeling the same way. I would love to pick Miami. I just can't.
I can't either. No. All right, let's move on to Sunday night football. So we have the Dallas Cowboys at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cowboys are 2-2 and the Steelers are 3-1. The favorite is Pittsburgh by 2.5 because they're at home. And the over-under is 43. Like I said, Sunday night game. So Dallas has had 10 days off coming off of that. It was kind of an ugly win over the Giants, the 20-15 game, the game with all the field goals. It wasn't pretty, but it was a win. And they've had 10 days to get healthy and figure things out to go into the Steelers, who are coming off of the loss to the Colts, their first loss. And going into the Steelers going into the Colts game, they hadn't allowed more than 10 points to anybody, and then the Colts took them for 27 points. Fields did look good in that loss. He racked up 35 fantasy points. He was gold, but they just couldn't stop the Colts from scoring on the other side of the ball.
Was it mostly from rushing for the Colts?
Jonathan Taylor did have a good day, but Joe Flacco, it was very balanced, that attack.
Okay.
So it was both. Um, I don't know about this one. This is an interesting game. I didn't expect Pittsburgh to be as good as they are or that they showed that they were in the first 3 games. And Justin Fields has looked good. And the thing I guess that comes back to me is Dallas allowing Kamara to run all over them and Justin Fields could do the same.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And Dallas has some defensive injuries too for key players, right?
They do. Yeah. So pass rusher Mika Parsons was seen in a boot riding around on a scooter on Monday. So without Parsons and they have some other defensive injuries too, they are definitely going to be weak on defense. Who are you picking?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. I'm
I
going
feel more
Pittsburgh.
confident in them. Yep, we're
Yeah,
both on Pittsburgh.
I do too. Hopefully they won't have to
Uh,
kick, 6 field goals or 7 field goals to win that game like the Giants were trying to do.
I don't see that from the Steelers. I think they'll keep adding to those passing touchdowns
Or rushing. Either
or
way,
rushing.
the
Yes.
touchdowns.
So let's round it out with our one Monday night game. We are back to a single Monday night game. New Orleans at Kansas City. 2-2 team against a 4-0 team. Kansas City, of course, is the favorites. They're favored by 5. Over under is 42.5, so not a super high scoring game. Chiefs are the only undefeated team in the AFC. They've had some questionable calls that have been positioned at the right time to help them get there, I'd say personally, but they have had to overcome a 10-point deficit to beat the Chargers last week.
They did, yeah, but they're back at home, and New Orleans has their second primetime game in a row, and on the road too. So, and Kansas City is a really hard place to go play. And Derek Carr has thrown an interception in each of the last 3 games. So I don't see this going New Orleans' way. The Kansas City defense has looked really well, and now that Kansas City has Kareem Hunt stepping up the running game a little bit, I feel like Kansas City's going to be on a roll. So unless Kansas City gets sloppy and doesn't take the game seriously because they are at home, I don't see any way that the Chiefs aren't winning this.
I'm with you. I know that Kansas City has some injuries, but I still think that Kansas City's going to end up winning this and start the season 5-0.
Yeah, there's no way you're betting against Kansas City at home.
Well, that does it for the week 5 games then. We hope that you found a few games that you're looking forward to watching. I have a couple that I'm excited about. How about you, Judy?
I do too. Yeah, a couple surprising ones even. That Bears game, Carolina and Chicago, and Baltimore and Cincinnati, and Buffalo and Houston. Definitely, I will be ready to watch all of those. And I guess we'll
I'm
get
excited that
12 hours of over 12 hours of football since we get to start at 9:30 in the morning.
so many are expected to be high scoring games. That's always fun to watch.
It is. Yeah.
I'm excited to play in our free daily fantasy contest this weekend. We have a couple of free contests going. Check the description for the links. And we'll have a prize pack for this weekend again for winners of our FanDuel and Fantasy Sports Evo Main Sunday contest. These include a Fangirl football canvas bag, koozie, and a mini football. Join us in the contest for a chance to win the prize pack.